All right, people, welcome to this amazing recording that we're going to do to dive into a Game of Dragons white paper. Today, we have the creator and writer of this white paper, Mr. Larry Hawkins, who's the director of development and strategy for a Game of Dragons. So we're super excited to have him here today. And in a second, we'll give him a moment to do a quick introduction, let you know his background, let you know how he got involved with the project and going into his vision and also more in depth of the game mechanics. You may be wondering who I am and why I'm even here. I'm just pretty cool. I get to serve as a mod and on the team for Game of Dragons. My name is Evantee, and you'll know me in the Discord or any of our Twitter engagement. That's easy. I just go by that, keeping it real simple, real easy. I'm real laid back, and I just love getting to know people. I'm a gamer myself, really big into the NFT industry and crypto. So I'm just excited to be a part of this amazing team and also be here today to be able to talk to Larry about our amazing project and game that's coming up. And so with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Larry, allow him to give you an introduction of himself, talk about his gaming passion, talk about how he got into NFT gaming, crypto as well, and just a quick intro before we jump into the mechanics.
Yeah, appreciate that, Evantee. So my name is Larry Hawkins. I am the director of gaming strategy and development. I'm trying to think of where I want to start. I always start when I think about playing games when I was 7. My dad tells this story about when he brought this Tandy laptop home. It was really like hard to get into laptop. But the moment he brought it home, I was just like, what does this do? What does this do? What does this do? So then I asked him, I was like, can I play with the laptop? This is like a Friday evening. And he said, if you can get into it, you can play it. So again, I'm 7. Saturday morning, instead of watching my cartoons with my bowl of cereal like I usually do, I'm trying to get into this laptop. Well, my name is Larry Hawkins II. I'm named after my dad. He's Larry Sr. So Saturday morning, my mom wakes up. She comes into the living room. She sees me on the living room floor playing the laptop. And she goes, Larry, get in here, yelling for my dad. So my dad jumps out of bed. He's thinking the house is on fire or something. He runs into the living room. She goes, look at your son playing with this expensive laptop, because he had just bought it, right? This is 1993.
Yeah, right.
Laptops are expensive. So he looks at me playing on the laptop. He looks at my mom. He looks at me again, and he just starts laughing. He goes, well, I told him if he could get into it, he could play it. I had gotten into the laptop. I had found games, settings, programs, stuff that my dad hadn't even found yet. Like I was playing solitaire and Minesweeper at 7 years old. And he said he knew that was the moment where I had something special. So he tried to always nurture, my gaming desire. So like when I would start taking things apart, he bought me like the little handheld games, like the Home Alone or the Ninja Turtles. And like I could play those games, and then when I beat them, I could take them apart, put them back together, because I've always been fascinated not only with games, but then how they work as well. Mm-hmm. When you fast forward, I collected Pokemon cards. I used to actually go to competitions with my deck. And yeah, like I had a deck called Rain Dance that was obviously a very water focus. I had Blastoise and all, and War Turtle. And like I just knew that, because I used to play with my best friend. I used to always beat him. So I'm like, all right, I know that when I go to these tournaments, it's about to be a wrap. Like I'm about to kill. Man, I went to the first tournament and got demolished. My very first game, I was demolished.
Probably pulled like 3 cards.
Yes, I got humbled really quickly. But I realized like that was my first time building a deck, trying to play a game where it's a deck building, card building strategy. And I learned in that game that my strategy for how I built my deck was not sound. I had too many, energy cards, not enough monster cards, not enough utility cards. But just that experience really piqued my interest in the style of deck building card strategy games. Well, I go on, I play more video games. I get a degree in electrical engineering. I go to college. Fast forward, I've been a gamer my entire life. And then February of 2022 is when I first was introduced to a Game of Dragons. The project had been launched in October 2021, but I'd always been on the fence about NFTs. I was like, I don't get the utility behind it. Like it's a JPEG image. And what am I going to do with this? Somebody just right click, save as, and now they've got a copy of it too. Mm-hmm. But I'm scrolling on Twitter and I see a Game of Dragons. Like I see this dragon, it's an Ollie, a ghost Ollie with a graveyard background, which will make more sense later on. And I was just like, this is really fascinating. Let me go see what this is about. So I go into the Discord, I go into the Telegram, and I start joining the community. I'm like, I love this idea. I can play this game. I've played games like this for years that I used to pay money to play. I can actually make money while I'm doing this. obviously I want to do this. Then they start asking the community for game ideas. So I start giving out game ideas because, again, I've just always been in the gamifying things mindset. And they're like, we really love your ideas. Do you want to join the team? I'm like, yeah, sure. I joined the team. Hey, do you want to be the director of strategy? I'm like, yes, absolutely. Because building a game has always been like a childhood passion of mine. When I was in school, I used to create games like a Monopoly style board game. You could actually like play it. It had the dice, the pieces, my own cards. Building and creating games is in my blood. It's always has been. It's always been a passion of mine. And so getting a chance to do that in real time and bring a vision for what we want this game to be to life, I'm on top of the moon and beyond. So
definitely. No, that's amazing, man. And so just a couple things pop up in mind when, you know, based off of that. So your dad having a laptop that long ago means a lot. Yeah, because that says a lot about, you know, if he was in technology and if he was into, so did you get that love for it?
Oh, absolutely. Like I loved, so my dad's also a pastor, and he's been pastor of a church, the same church, my entire life. So I grew up with two strong passions, technology and people. And I also loved like math and science. I was a straight A student all through school. And so finding ways to bridge that technology and that people piece was what led me to majoring in computer engineering first, but then I realized I like people more than technology, but I still love both. So I switched to electrical engineering, but those two passions have always been, from as long as I can remember, the two leading passions for all decisions. Like, yeah, sports and stuff were mixed in, but technology and where that could take me has always been my guiding light, so to speak.
Definitely. And that's the beauty of, you know, the NFT space that you talk about. One, it allows you to do things you never potentially thought was possible because it is such a new space and people see talent and they trust talent, which is really cool and allow you to connect the dots. And then you talked about, you know, the gaming experience of not only a guy, but in general. So on that note, just before we even get into mechanics, what do you think is a good gaming experience? And how do you relate that back to a game of dragons and your vision in creating this white paper?
Yeah, so if we look at what playing games actually is, you're voluntarily signing up for challenges to try to overcome, and you get some sense of enjoyment out of that challenge. Like, gaming is optional. You don't have to play games. You don't have to play this game or that game. Certain types of games are going to appeal to different types of people. Realizing those are fundamental facts, all of that went into how we were going to build a game of dragons, because I'm really big on the psychology piece behind things. It's another one of my passions. And so when I started thinking about how do we build this game, the first question I asked myself is, who are we building it for? Because if you don't know the type of person, the type of player that you're building the game and the various assets of the game for, you're going to have a game that's kind of mismatched. You got this, you got that, but they don't talk to each other. They don't, you know, intertwine. And I wanted to make sure two things. One, the game is fun, because in the play to earn space, there's so many games that have turned, I call them games very loosely, they've turned gaming into work. It's a gamified way to do work. You press some buttons, you flip some levers, and then if you do well, you get some cryptocurrency that you can then immediately cash out. That's work. You spend some time, you get paid for your time. You play this game for some time, you get money for your time. And I didn't want a game of dragons to be gamified work. I want a game of dragons to be the fun thing you're thinking about when you're not playing it. When you're talking with your friends, when you're trying to brainstorm, you're faced with this challenge, this team, this boss that you can't overcome, you have fun thinking of, how do I overcome this challenge? And not, how do I beat this challenge so I can get my money? Like, it's a completely different mindset. So having that be at the forefront, then thinking about, you know, people who are achievers, who are socializers, who are fighters, you know, who are explorers. Those are the four types of different psychological profiles of people who play types of games. And if you're trying to appeal to them, you've got to make sure that you've got something there. You got to have a hook, a reason for them to come back. And fun has to be at the core of it. Because if it's anything other than fun, and it's just say the earning potential, the moment another game comes along where people can earn more, they're going to move on. And we wanted to create something that had staying power, that's going to have you, like I said, I played a game that's similar to what we're building for 7 years for free. And sometimes I paid some of my own money for it because it was fun. There was a community. It gave me challenges. And that's what we're building with a Game of Dragons.
Perfect. And I definitely resonate with that, man. There's a lot of games I sit here and play, like you said, for hours. Yes. Call of Duty, play that for hours, buy my skins, buy my guns. And it's all for the challenge. It's all for not just the challenge, but to be able to hang out with my friends and just kind of just have fun. And then I think about a game that's different from Call of Duty, and it's like Elden Ring that just came out. I mean, it's probably gonna be game of the year, but it was probably one of the most difficult games I ever played. It's probably one of the most detailed games I ever played. And I had to literally spend hours outside of even picking up the joystick to be successful in that game, whether it was watching YouTube, whether it was relying on my community, whether it was like asking somebody, how in the world did you even beat this person type deal. And then when you tell me, and in my mind, I got up to 100 hours, didn't make $1 off of Elden Ring. Right. So when I'm thinking about a game that I love, and I'm like, man, if I was actually making money while playing this game without thinking about it, like, why wouldn't I and just sign up for that? So that's amazing. And also just a diversity of characters, traits, and that just kind of bring me into, a guy. So can you just give us a quick, overview of the gameplay, and we'll go into some details. But one of the things I love the most is just the dragons itself. It's such an array of dragons, a lot of different traits. And so we'll just take some time to just jump into just a quick overview of the game, and then just jumping into the actual dragon classes and talk through that a little bit.
So a Game of Dragons is built on NFTs. You need 3 dragons to play the game. You can think Axie Infinity. It's an Axie Infinity inspired style of play where each dragon has 4 to 6 different skills or cards, abilities that your team of 3, let's say each of your dragons have 4 different skills. Your deck would be 12 cards or 12 abilities. And you have a certain amount of energy, a certain number of cards you can have per turn. You're fighting, whether you're fighting against another player, you're fighting against the AI, you're in a dungeon trying to, conquer and farm some resources. You get a chance to own your dragons, build your dragons, customize your dragons, because each dragon, they have different classes. There's tank, there's a bruiser, trickster, healer, DPS. That role-playing type element, you're able to customize your dragon stats. You're able to re-roll what skills and abilities they have, which again, you're re-rolling the cards that are going to build up your deck. There's different play styles where you can do focus on crowd control or damage or sustain. There's all types of different ways, because our goal was to create a universe to where, let's say you're an achiever and you just want to knock off the checklist. You want to achieve those certain records. You can play that through the PvE style, or maybe you're a fighter and you want to fight other people. You can do that through the PvP. If you're a socializer, you want to rally around your community, you can do that with the world boss. If you're an explorer and you want to, harness and farm certain resources to build certain things, you can do that through the dungeons. There's something for everyone, and you can choose to play just that one style, but it's going to be beneficial to play all the styles to be able to expand your roster, expand your resources, expand your tools, to be able to play the game how you want to. And that was the real big focus for me, is that I don't want there to be one right or wrong way to play the game. I want people to be able to approach the game, see what they're dealing with, and then approach it how they want to, strategize how they want to, and again, have fun. Not just bang your head against the wall because this thing is not doing what you want it to do. Be able to take a step back and think, like, what's going to be fun for me to think outside the box, and give people the tools to do that.
Definitely sounds good. So I mean, you got 5 different dragon classes: tank, bruiser, trickster, DPS, healer. In typical games, what's normally one of your favorites that you would play with and why? So
if I'm playing as part of a team, depends on what my team is doing. Because there's a game, the Division 2 is a game that I play with some of my friends. And in that style game, I'm more of just a DPS. I'm in the back lane. I'm viewing the field, saying, "Hey, watch out for this, watch out for that." But I'm doing damage. That's where my focus is. But then, depending on if I'm playing a different game, I'll play a healer or I'll play a trickster. I don't usually play front line, like the bruiser or the tank. I've got a friend of mine that, regardless of what game we're playing, he's always going to be on the front line, in the mix, fighting people, punching people, shooting people. That's just how his style is. And so for each of those classes, it's going to align with what your natural style is. I like more of the sit back, strategize, communicate. And so either trickster, healer, or DPS are usually my go-to.
Got you. Yeah. So I'm very much the same, depending on the game. I do like some action sometimes, jumping there, just going full force. But for like shooters and things, I'm a sniper, man. I gotta always just kind of sit back, scope, and just go crazy from there. It's nothing like a good snipe shot. And so, that is great. And so going more into dragon diversity, the dragons have stats, but we also have a lot of different dragon types, which is cool. So if you want to, talk a little bit about our different dragon types from elemental thing to state, and just maybe, some advantages and disadvantages of each, and just that thought process behind the diversity of dragon types.
Yeah. So regarding diversity, we have 20 different species of dragons, and then there's 15 different types. The species is like we've got, what's the dragon name? So there's Otis, there's Ziggy, like there's the different individual dragons. Whereas the types, we've got elemental, we have themed, and then we have state. With elemental, you're looking at air, fire, lightning, earth, and ice. And those are the 5. And then each of those are, there's elemental advantage depending on which state. So for example, earth has elemental advantage over lightning. Lightning has elemental advantage over air. And so the elemental advantage gives you 15% extra damage whenever you're attacking that type of monster or the type of dragon. With our themed dragons, we've got zombie, alien, robot, skeleton, and ghost. And so for those, they each have access to a dungeon. So for example, the alien robot will have access to the space dungeon where they could farm stardust, which you could use to boost the intelligence of your dragons. So, the themed dragons, they're going to be extra rare because they get access to dungeons. They're going to get you access to resources that when it comes to the end game, when you're trying to customize and build your dragons to fit your specific type of style, you're going to want to find those players who own those theme type dragons to get access to the resources, which you'll be able to do through the marketplace. And then with our state dragons, we have light, shadow, mythical, ethereal, and gold. Our state dragons, they have very game specific assets, so to speak. So with our mythical dragon, for example, they're going to be more adept at inflicting debuffs and doing crowd control. And they're going to have passive skills that allow them to have a higher percentage to land those debuffs. So each of the light dragon, for example, is going to have a higher evade stats because if it's light and you can't see, then it's going to be harder to hit. Like each of the different states have their own little asset to give them a place in this ecosystem. The thing that I like about the state dragons, which is not going to be upon launch, but later on, they're going to have a very unique use case when it comes to the world boss. Specifically, once the community is able to take the world boss down and there's that cooldown period, what is the world boss trying to defend? What's behind them that we can't get access to as we take them? The state dragons are going to get a chance to figure that out.
Got you. I like that. A little bit of alpha coming from Mr. Hawkins himself. And I think that's pretty cool, man. Like, again, I love the diversity of dragons. So for me, I can get really bored with games just because I just don't feel like there's enough diversity of characters and customization. So here, you got tons of options. You really can just pick it and choose and grow as you like. I definitely like the ability to also form resources. Again, there's some games I play that I'll just spend that day or a couple of days not even really playing the game and just forming and having and a lot of games do that, which is a part of it. And I love games that allow you to do that. Yeah. And so again, just thinking about, I was very big into Power Rangers growing up. I was very big into like Dragon Ball Z. So anything with this idea of fusion and becoming stronger to gain advantages. And so that kind of bring me into the idea of those multi-elemental dragons that we mentioned. And so we could talk a little bit about the multi-elemental, their benefits, and just thinking about, their advantages and potential disadvantages in the game. Because I know some people be like, oh my God, they're going to ruin the game. And I just kind of want to talk to you, about those checks and balances as well.
Yeah. So with the multi-elemental, I won't get into the NFT side of things because that's a completely different topic. But as far as gameplay goes, with the multi-elemental, you need 5 different types of the same dragon. Specifically, you need fire, earth, ice, ethereal, and gold. So let's say I have a fire grunt, ice grunt, an earth grunt, an ethereal grunt, and a gold grunt. I can take those to the hatchery and sacrifice them, so to speak, through the fusion system. And they'll give me a multi-elemental grunt or a multi-elemental, whatever the 5 dragons that I sacrifice, so to speak. And with the multi-elemental, they don't have elemental advantage over other dragons, but they're also not weak to other dragons. The benefit to a multi-elemental dragon is that at max level, a normal dragon can only have 6 abilities. for a multi-elemental, you can have 10 abilities, which means that if you have 3 different multi-elementals on your team, you have a deck of 30 cards versus a deck of 18 cards. Now that has pros and cons because you could have a lot more flexibility, a lot more creativity, but if there's more cards in your deck, the odds of you getting the cards you need are much higher, are much lower than if you had, a smaller amount of cards. So yeah, so you get, the thing I'm excited about with multi-elemental dragons is that we're going to get a chance to see people really be fully creative in the different types of strategies they want to employ. Because you can get, again, those 10 skills, they'll be able to choose that from the 5 dragons that were sacrificed to make the multi-elemental dragon. So that means that you want to make sure that you don't just sacrifice any fire grunt. You want to have this fire grunt that you customize what skills it has, what those stats are, the way the gameplay is, because those are the skills you'll be able to choose from when it comes time to choose your multi-elemental dragon skills. And so there's levels and layers to the customization that are going to come into play. But then when it comes into the actual gameplay, because they don't have elemental advantage, they're not going to be automatically just stronger than other dragons, and they're going to automatically be weaker. There's going to be a lot more intentionality with how they're used, because it's going to depend on, are you going to get the cards that you need? Are you going to be able to do that in the time that you need to keep it alive to do the damage? There's just so many nuances to how strategy is going to play out that multi-elementals are not just going to automatically be stronger than other dragons, because all it takes is a well-built strategy, a well-built team, and you'll be able to take them out. But you've got to be, you got to be on it. Like, it's not just something you're just going to walk into and be like, oh yeah, I beat a team multi-elementals. Nah, when you beat that team, you're going to know you earned it, because it took an execution of strategy that you created to overcome this challenge.
No, I love that. I love that. And even thinking about multi-element, because I can have 2 different multi-elemental grunts on each side, but one will have an advantage based off of the way that it was built, the intentionality that it was built. So that's
the thing that I'm most excited about this game, even taking away from the multi-elemental. Let's say I have a fire grunt and you have a fire grunt. Okay, we build it at level 50. Well, once you get to level 50, you've got 6 cards. 3 of those cards were assigned to the dragon whenever you hatch the egg, and then 3 of those cards are going to be, I think it's at level 20, you get a chance to choose your first, I think it's a class card. And you'll have, out of 6 to 8 cards you can choose from that are pulled from the class pool, and you can choose one. And then you're like, okay, now you've got that card. Then at level 40, you choose a typed card. At level 50, you get your other type card. And so then now you can reset your skills. You can reset the 3 skills that you chose. And the way that I reset my fire grunt versus the way you reset your fire grunt are going to be different. And then we can get those themed resources from the themed dragons, and I can boost my intelligence or my speed or my HP or my depth, my defense or my attack. How I decide to build my grunt and how you decide to build your grunt are going to be different. And how we use them are going to be different. With the team we're going to put them in is going to be different. So just you don't know what's on the other side until the battle starts. And now you've got to try to execute on your strategy while hope and account for whatever strategy they may have. That chess game, that chess match element, that's what I'm most excited about.
Definitely. No, I love that. And we got one more type of dragon to go through before we actually dive into some gameplay and some areas that we explore in the game. But the Gen 1 versus Gen 2 dragons.
Yes.
I think there's definitely something important to hit on. Because you got a hatchery, and so people kind of want to know, what's the difference in those 2 type of dragons.
So our Generation 1 dragons are going to be the dragons that are tied to the NFT. So as we're getting ready to launch the mint and people are minting the dragons, those dragons that are obtained through the mint are going to be Generation 1 dragons. Generation 1 dragons are going to be able to use their NFT to get bonus stats within the game. So depending on how rare your background is, your intelligence may see a boost. Regarding on how rare your base is, I think it's your HP may see a boost. Depending on if you have a companion, your speed may see a boost. If you've got a sword, you may see an attack boost. If you've got a shield, you may see a defense boost. Like, depending on the rarity of your NFT, you're going to see bonus base stats in the game for your dragon. So for Generation 1 dragons, they are always tied to an NFT. They'll also have access to potential passives and skills that only Generation 1 can get access to. Generation 2 dragons are hatched through the hatchery. So you're able to buy your egg, decide I'm going to feed it this type of food because I want to have a higher likelihood of getting a grunt versus an Otis, because grunts like chicken and Otis like seafood. Well, if I feed the egg more chicken through the 7-day period, I have a higher likelihood of getting a grunt. Whereas if I feed it more seafood, I have a higher likelihood of getting an Otis. You're not guaranteed, but it's a higher likelihood. But Generation 2 dragons are hatched from the eggs. They'll have access to passive skills and other elements that the Generation 1 won't be able to have access to. So while they may not get the boost in stats, they're going to have a boost in types of gameplay, types of skills, types of abilities that Generation 1 may not be able to ever access. So you don't miss out by not joining the game once, before the mint. You're not going to miss out if you join the game 3 years from now, because Generation 2 is going to have their own, unique approach to the game that gives them value. Because my whole goal, one of my entire goals, was I didn't want to have a dragon that, okay, if you happen to get a Ziggy that's Generation 2, nobody wants it. Which now you've got a useless dragon, which you've got a useless asset, which you now have a weak point in your game. So I wanted to make sure that each of the dragons, regardless of how you want to build it, they're going to have their own pros and cons, to where it's not just clearly overpowered compared to the others.
Definitely. No, I love that. And just going more into the balances, and you have these cards, right? And so we kind of talked about the different components of the cards and how they're used. But say you are looking for a particular card, is there a way to get a card? Or I'm not sure we explored that just yet, but that's just a random thought that just hit me.
Yeah, so with our card system, there's 3 different pools or categories. There's common, there's class, and then there's type. The common category of cards are common across all dragons. So you may just have something as, does 60 damage. That's a common type card. Whereas with the class type card, that's going to be tied to whether you're a tank, a bruiser, a healer, a trickster, or a DPS. So you'll see more cards that, let's say for healers, for example, there's a card called We Can Do It, where you remove 1 debuff from your team and then you give them a healing over time buff, where they get 5% of your max HP over 3 turns. That's a very class specific card. So you wouldn't, a bruiser would not be able to get access to this card because it doesn't fit their class. This is a healer type class. But if you have a healer and that's the cards you're looking for, then you know that, okay, of the class pool, I'm hoping that for the 50 or so cards that are in this healer class, when I reset my dragon, this is going to be one of those 6 to 8 cards I can choose from. But if it's not, I can then reset my skills again. You have to burn AGOT coins to do this, but there is another chance you can there's no limit on the number of times you reset the skills. And then with our type category, that's going to be tied to whether you're ice elemental or a zombie dragon or a light dragon. The type category is going to be tied to what type of dragon that you are. And based off of that, you'll be able to get 2 of the common, 2 of the class, 2 of the type. And if you know that you're looking for a specific card, you can re-roll your dragons as many times as you want to. You've got to burn AGOT coins, but you're not limited by the number of times. And so maybe you re-roll it and you get 2 out of the 3 cards you want, but that third one, you didn't get it. So now the question is, do I just keep what I have, or do I re-roll it again and run the risk of not having any of the cards that I want? And those are the kind of decisions that people are going to have to make. And you never know, just because the dragon that you've built doesn't fit your play style, there may be someone else who looks at like, hey, this has all the skills that I've been looking for, which is going to incentivize the marketplace and the reselling of dragons. So yes, you can find the cards you're looking for, but it's not a guarantee.
Got you. Perfect. No, that's really good. That's good to know. And so we talked a lot about, the actual dragon builder, the species and things like that. So we can dive a little bit into the game areas, and this is the actual gameplay. Like we talk about diversity of people. You might want to be a person who just play against people. You might want to be an adventure style. So we could talk about arena PvP right now. So I know I've seen a lot about the season, the battle flow. So just kind of talking about going against another player PvP wise. What will that look like?
Yeah. So let's say me and you are going to play against each other, right? We'll see a title screen. It's like, okay, Larry against Evantee. And what it's going to show you is the probability of like, what are my top 5 picked dragons? Across, as long as I play the game, what dragons do I naturally gravitate to? You'll be able to see it about me. I'll be able to see it about you. We'll also be able to see, where are we playing? Are we playing on a volcano? Are we playing in an ice tundra? All those things are important to know when you get a chance to start picking your teams. Because if you're playing on a volcano, fire elemental dragons are going to see a boost to stats while you're playing on a volcano. Whereas if you're playing in a tundra, an ice elemental dragon are going to see a boost to their stats. So when you get into the PvP and the end game, the min-maxing, trying to optimize everything, you're going to want to have a diverse roster of dragons so that you're prepared, A, for the other players' type of play style. Because let's say you pick DPS as your top 2 most picked teams. Well, then I've got to assume that I'm about to play Evantee. If he normally picks the DPS, I need to be prepared to out heal the dragons, or be prepared to crowd control. I've got to figure out, how does his tendencies play a role in my strategy of how I like to play the game. Maybe just see who has the better DPS and who can do damage quicker. All of those things are going to be taking place before the fight even starts. Those are decisions you have to make before, and we're not going to get into, like, do I have my dragons built properly with the right skills, with the right stats? Maybe. Have I put the time in? Who knows? But those are types of pre-fight decisions you have to make. Then once you pick your team, and I pick my team, the fight starts. Then based off whoever's dragon has the higher base attack speed, they're going to attack first. You can decide, like, how do you want to open? Do you want to just, like, end your turn and gain some more energy so that you can play more cards at once? Do you want to open up with a crowd control? Do you want, like, it's up to you on how you want to open up. But then the fight starts to go back and forth. Well, I play my cards, you play your cards. We're trying to heal. We're trying to make sure that our dragons don't reach 0 health points, because that's when they die and they turn into ghosts. Now you can't use them. But the criteria to win is I have to kill all of your dragons, or you have to defeat all of my dragons. But if to say the fight, goes on for 20, 30 rounds, well, we haven't picked a specific number yet, but at a certain point, for argument's sake, we'll say at round 30, what starts happening is each round, the HP of all dragons on the field is decreased by 5%, and the attack of all dragons on the field is boosted by 5%. Okay. So now everybody's a lot more fragile. And the longer the fight goes on, you get more and more fragile. Each round, or every couple rounds, that increase and that decrease happens again. We hit harder, we have less HP, because we don't want the fights to draw out into like a stalemate, a tie. That's no fun. Somebody has to win. But if it happens to start to draw out, we've got mechanisms in place to where eventually somebody's going to lose. And then the person that loses. The person who wins, they get their AGOT coins, they get their little bit of experience, and then you move on to the next fight.
Got you. No, that's perfect. And I love that, man. Like, so in the idea of a battle starting, so with the player with the total fastest speed, I guess, between all that players attack first, is that the
so it'll be the dragon. So let's say I've got an Otis where my base speed is 89, but then my other 2 dragons are like 75 and 54. Well, unless you have a dragon that's faster than 89, say your next fastest dragon is 88, then that means my dragon is going to go first, then your dragon, and then based off of stats, the dragons will fall in line based off of where their attack speed is. There's going to be skills and abilities that allow you to manipulate the attack speed of your enemy or of your teammates. So maybe in the first round, my dragon goes first, but you apply the speed buff to your team, which means next round, your dragon is now faster than my dragon, which means you're going to go first. So there's another layer of strategy in between. Like, do I want them to go first? Do I not want them to go first? Am I playing, a second turn type team or a first turn type team? It's really just going to depend on who it is. But as time goes on, you'll be able to be matched with people with similar skill, because we're going to have skill-based matchmaking, because we don't want just like overpowered people, people who are just now starting. You'll be, competitively matched up. And then there'll be rewards for people who reach the top ranks. You'll be able to get, additional rewards, both monetary and in-game items. We'll have different seasons that are going to reset. We'll get more skills, more abilities. I don't know for sure whether we'll have more dragons. I'm not going to say we're not going to have more dragons. I'm not going to say we are. Time will tell. But as the seasons reset, we'll get a chance to introduce more things to shake up the meta.
Definitely. I love that. And like I said, it just reminds me of being a potential basketball coach and just really picking your team, the strength and weakness of each player, and trying to hope it comes together to beat the other team. And so for me, I love PvP. Any game with PvP, that's probably where I'm going to first. Some games don't even play the campaign, to be quite honest.
You would qualify as a fighter category.
Yes, that is me. I'm ready to battle it out. But then you have people who hate PvP. Like I have a brother who don't want anything to do with PvP because of all the advantages or whatever it might come with. But then you got adventure mode for us, for those people.
Yes.
So we could just dive a little bit into the adventure mode of the game.
So for our PvE mode, there's going to be different campaigns. Each campaign will have a level, easy, medium, or hard, where easy would require you to spend 1 energy, medium, maybe 3 energy, hard, maybe 5 energy. And then the rewards that you get on the back end of clearing the level are going to be according to how much energy you have to put in. But the campaigns where you're going to farm, the gold, where you're going to farm the different food that you need to feed the eggs, you're going to be able to farm different types of resources that are going to be important for the rest of the gameplay for other aspects. So you could have the option to just play PvP, but then that's going to severely limit what you have access to unless you're just going to buy dragons or buy the resource, because you don't have to play it. You could just buy the food from people who all they do is play PvE. They farm a bunch of food, then they put it on the marketplace for people who don't want to play PvE, like you. So now you can just buy the food and then use that to, shift what kind of egg you're going to hatch. So there's going to be ways to where you don't have to play everything. But if you're trying to be economically responsible, it's going to be to your benefit to play everything. But yeah, with the PvE, that's going to operate where, like, our achievers, like we'll have achievements where, defeat a certain number of levels with only fire dragons. Like that's an achievement you can get, and you'll get a little accolade on your avatar for it. Like those going to be the levels and the in-depth and for the PvE, and most importantly with the PvE, that's where the narrative and the lore and the story behind the universe of A God universe, all of that will play out in the PvE area. We'll find out why the alien dragons are attacking and how the graveyard dragons, with the skeletons, the zombies, the skeleton, zombie, and what's the other graveyard dragon?
Would it be Ghost?
Ghost, yeah. Like how they play its role. Like, so every element, every dragon is going to have a story behind it. And the PvE area is where you'll get a chance to find out what that story is.
Perfect. And so then we go right into dungeons. Like, what are those dungeons for? I know those are for those theme dragons. Yep. So what are the benefits?
Yeah, so with the theme dragons, we're going to have the space dragon, the space dungeon, and the zombie graveyard dungeon. Yeah, space dungeon and the graveyard dungeon. And that's where the theme dragons, like the alien, will be able to farm stardust. The zombie dragon will be able to farm live soil, which you can use that to boost your HP. The robot dragon can farm nuts and bolts, which you'll use to boost your defense. And the reason why these resources are important is because once you get a dragon at level 50, that unlocks the next step of the end game, where you can boost your stats for your dragon up to 7 times. So let's say I have a Otis who is high on attack and intelligence, but low on HP and defense. Maybe I want to farm or buy the live soil from the zombie dungeon, or maybe I want to buy the nuts and bolts from the robot that farms it from the space dungeon, because I want to boost the HP and the defense of my Otis. That's a choice that I can make. Or you could decide I'm going to go full glass cannon, and I'm just going to put all my points into attack and intelligence because I use a lot of skill attacks. Those are options that can be taken, but it's going to depend on how you want to build your dragon, and then knowing which of the dungeons, do I have those dragons, or do I need to go buy those dragons, or do I need to buy those resources? But that's how the dungeons play out. Is we're starting out, emphasis on starting out with each of the 5 themed dragons getting access to their own type of dungeon to then farm resources. But that's not the end of our plans for the dungeon area. It's just the start. And I'll just leave that where that is.
Stay there for the DLC and the expansion.
Yep.
Definitely. And I mean, one of my favorite parts that I'm most looking forward to as a fighter, as someone with the mentality of going to beat the strongest, rarely is by myself or with a team, is that we're a boss component. So I'm super excited about that, and kind of want to hear more about the World Boss, and then also just the community partner World Boss, which I think is absolute gold for the NFT community space that is currently being built.
Yeah, so with the World Boss, that'll be the big boss, so to speak, that everybody that's playing the game can get access to. We're trying to take the World Boss down. So like if you have up to 30 dragons, your damage will be calculated based off the number of dragons, the level of dragons, how much investment you put into your dragons. We'll calculate how much damage you do to the World Boss. then you'll get rewards based off of that. Maybe you'll get some of the dungeon resources. Maybe you'll get an egg. Maybe you'll get a hatchery ticket. Maybe you just get gold. Maybe you get an experience boost. The way you can get access to those types of resources without like having access to the dungeon is attacking the world boss. There'll be low percentages, of course, but there's always that chance. And with the world boss, everyone that's playing the game is trying to take down the world boss. So it's not just like, are my dragons better than yours? Like, no, hey, have you attacked the world boss today?
Right.
I'm gonna ping my friends like, hey guys, have you attacked the world boss today? Because it's in our benefit to attack the world boss to get the rewards. Once the world boss dies, getting those final rewards of, defeating the big enemy. And then what happens after he dies, that's later down the line DLC. We'll skip over that for now. But that's one of those elements where everybody's on one team. It's the community against the world boss. The thing I'm excited about with the world boss is, of course, we're going to have our own world bosses, but if there are other NFT projects on the Solana space, on the Proton space, that want to have, their NFT featured as a world boss, they have that option. They can collaborate with us. And think about that, you get millions of people playing a game of Dragons, and now your NFT is featured as a world boss. That's millions of eyes on your project. Like, oh, this NFT is cool. This 3D NFT is cool. Let me go find out about this project. So it gives a reason for cross collaboration, in the space, because we don't want to just operate on an island and it's just us. Like, no, this is a community-led games, community-led project. It's a community-led community, and that's beyond just what we're building. So I'm really excited about the world boss because it's both in-game potential to bring the AGOT universe community together, but then also to bring the NFT community together as different people get a chance to have their NFT featured.
Oh yeah, that's huge. I can't wait, man. It's a lot of NFTs I can think of now that will make amazing world boss components.
Yes.
So that's exciting. And so, I mean, we got a couple more little topics to tackle, but I kind of wanted to just go into the marketplace and just kind of go over that a little bit, and the AGOT coin, because we know how important that can be into this space, just crypto, the in-game currency. So just kind of, what are some things that you'll be able to do that might not have been mentioned with the AGOT coin moving forward with the game?
Yeah, so let me first answer the question I know everybody's going to ask. As of the recording of this video, our tokenomics have not been defined yet. We're targeting Q3 2022 to work with an expert company to define our tokenomics, because NFT games are made and broken on tokenomics. But you've got to understand and have a rationale for how you're going to use your token to understand what you're going to need from your tokenomics. So our token, our AGOT coin, is going to be used in a variety of places. It's used for when you want to upgrade your dragons, upgrade their stats, if you want to reset their skills, if you want to refresh your energy. All of those are burn mechanisms. So we have burn mechanisms that are built into the game that are integral to the gameplay, that if you want to take your dragons to the next level, you're going to have to burn AGOT coins. How do you get AGOT coins? PvE, world boss. Like, those are the areas that you can stake your AGOT coins and get more. Like, there's ways to get your AGOT coins, but to be able to dig into the depth of the strategy and the chess moves and competing in the upper echelon, you're going to have to burn coins. And that's something that I've seen to be overlooked by a lot of games, that you don't have high quality burn mechanisms that are going to feed into the narrative of the game, but also incentivize the right behaviors. Because we want people incentivized to build up their dragons. And the way you do that is with the AGOT coin, which you're incentivized to burn the coin to keep the economy healthy. So you're not just playing, getting all these AGOT coins and then cashing out. You can do that, but you're going to miss out on so much more of the game. Like, just playing the game to cash out, you may get exposed to like 25% of the game. The other 75% is when you start to reinvest your coins. So that's the context behind what we know we want our AGOT coin to be, and that's going to influence the tokenomics for the game. That's where the marketplace comes into play. If people want to, say, hatch some eggs, hatch a dragon, and then sell the dragon, you can do that on the marketplace. If you want to sell your resources or buy resources, you can do it on the marketplace. If you want to buy or sell in-game cosmetics for your avatar, that's going to be done on the marketplace. All the games economy is going to be on the marketplace, because that is where, outside of the world boss, the marketplace is the only other place I can think of where everybody's rallied around a central idea of trying to get the resources, trying to do whatever they need to do to better their team. And so that is going to be a very integral part. Like I can't think of many in-game resources that you won't be able to resell on the marketplace, because I mean, that's part of what the fun of the game is farming, it's building, it's reselling, it's buying. Maybe you don't want to actually play the game and you only want to play PvP. You can buy your team. It's going to take some time for people to put the tools and the pieces that you need, but you can just buy your team and just play that. Or you can farm it. Maybe you don't want to do PvP. Maybe you only want to do PvE. Maybe you only want to do dungeons. You farm your nuts and bolts, you get your stack, you put on the marketplace, somebody buys it. So again, you can play the game how you want to, is the entire goal.
Perfect. And you mentioned just quickly avatars. So just kind of briefly, like the benefit of avatar. And I know we got the community avatar. So we could just kind of hash over the avatar component really quick, because I know people love their skins, they love their avatars. That's just a part of gaming.
So yeah, the in-game avatar, if you've ever played virtually any game, you have an avatar that's your representation of who you are. We're going to have that in a Game of Dragons as well. Now, the things about the avatars are that there's going to be, just basic avatars, but then there's going to be, special avatars that may give you boost to experience, may give you boost to gold, may give you boost, like a small boost to farming resources. But then also part of that partnering with other communities, let's say there's a project that had their NFT as a world boss, but they also want to have their NFT as an in-game avatar. There's also an option to where maybe they have 300 avatars that they can now give to their community, and they can put those on the marketplace to sell, or they could use them. It's completely up to them, but it's just another avenue, because for people who play the game, which by the way, you'll be able to play the game and you don't have to buy an NFT. You can play with our starter dragons. Our starter dragons will be a free team you can play on a smaller blockchain to still get access to the AGOT. Well, you can't get access to the AGOT coin, but get access to the AGOT universe. And you'll be able to play, but you won't be able to earn. You'll be able to earn in-game assets for your in-game avatar. But as far as like AGOT coin or things you need to actually make money, you won't be able to do that. But you get a chance to actually play the game, experience the fun, and see, like, is that something that you want to invest in? For people who don't take the starter dragon route, you'll be able to, again, farm those in-game customizable things for your avatars, and you'll be able to sell those. So they won't be bound to your account. For people who do starter dragons, anything that you farm will be bound to your account. But for people who have dragons where you can actually earn, you'll be able to earn different events and different opportunities for customizable things. I can look at your avatar and know that because of the hat that you have, you competed in a special tournament that was only available in the summer of 2023. That's just a badge of honor that you'll be able to hold on to. And, will these individual things give you added bonus in the game? Maybe. We haven't decided yet, but it has its pros and cons. We've got to think about the long-term health of the game as well as the short-term incentivizing strategy. But I'm between the world boss, the in-game avatars, just the pure collaboration within the game. Like, I'm excited to see just like how far this is going to go, because there are those of us who are in the AGOT universe, but as we tap into these other projects who have their own thing, maybe they want to use some of our dragons within their game, and then we cross collaboration, cross marketing. Who knows what the future holds?
And that's amazing. I'm definitely a fan of the avatars. Again, I'm one of the people who will spend a good bit of money on cosmetics and the way my player look and whatever that may be, benefits or not. So I love that part. And one of the last components that I definitely want to touch on before I give you an open floor for some final thoughts and where you want to leave the video is the rent to own function. I think that's something that's extremely useful, extremely beneficial, and can definitely be a great economic option for people to enter the game, because we know how expensive it can be to even enter into an NFT P2A gaming space. So kind of just touch on that rent to own feature.
Yeah, so actually the starter dragons that I was mentioning earlier kind of feeds into the rent to own, because the starter dragons are a free to play team, pre-custom built, that you can use to play the game. Well, you play the game, you realize, you know what, I like this game, but I can't afford to buy 3 dragons outright. Maybe I would just want to rent some dragons. And with the renting system, let's say you have 3 dragons, I have no dragons. you're going to rent, well, you have 6 dragons. You have 3 that you play with and 3 that just kind of take up dust. Well, you decide you're going to rent those dragons out to me. We come to an agreement that, okay, it's going to be a 60-40 split where I get a chance to keep 60% of the proceeds, you keep 40% of the proceeds. Now I'm playing the game. Every time that I earn something, 40% of that goes to you off top. So passive income, you didn't have to do anything, just let me play the game. 60% goes to me. Now, if our contract is I'm renting these dragons to eventually own them, well, then that 60%, I can decide how much of that I want to allocate towards the cost of the dragon. Maybe I want to just allocate all 60% of that. Well, then that means you get 100% of the proceeds. Or maybe I just do 30% of that. Well, now you get 70%, I get 30%. We can decide what works best for us. But the long-term plan is that once I pay off the dragons, they're mine now. So now I get 100% of the proceeds and I can do whatever I want to with them. Or it may be, I don't want to rent to own, I just want to rent my dragons. That will also be an option. There's some people who just like, we just haven't understood 60-40 split. They're always going to be your dragons. I'm just playing them because I enjoy playing the game. I make a little bit of money. Maybe we talk about, okay, how do we enhance the quality of our dragons? That there's a whole nother economy within itself of just the rental, but there's going to be pathways to where if you can't afford dragons outright from the beginning, there's going to be pathways to ownership, and rent to own is one of those options.
Perfect. Well, man, that's pretty much all the questions I have for you. We've talked about your history, your love for gaming. We just talked about the gaming experience. We've definitely talked about the different type of dragons and that diversity and, you know, those benefits, those characteristics, the areas of the game, and just some of those in-game currency components that can make a complete game. And I'm super excited about it. So I just kind of wanted to give you a chance, if you have any final thoughts, anything you wanted to leave, some words, some alpha, whatever that may be, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. The final thought I will leave with is something else that informed the creation of this game is that we're not yet at a stage of mass adoption. We're still a very niche, very small population, but with the way that life is transitioning and trending, at some point we're going to have that inflection point where you've got the companies who make the World of Warcraft, League of Legends, the War Zones, like the big name companies that are going to get into this space, this NFT space. And what we want to create with the Game of Dragons is a game that's already positioned to be ready for mass adoption. Again, we're thinking beyond just the gamifying work. We're thinking beyond just the, okay, if I play this and punch enough buttons, can I justify how much money I'm going to earn? It's beyond that, because you've got to be able to remove the hurdles of mass adoption, which is why we have our starter dragons, because one of the hurdles is barrier to entry is cost. Barrier to entry could be time, which is why we have our rent to own system. The barrier to entry could be the game's not fun, which is why that was our #1 tenet for how everything that we created has to be fun. All of those things that go into place that are going to ease the mass adoption. And if people are going to pick a game a year or two from now, they're like, you know what? I want to start to dabble in this NFT space. Our goal is for a Game of Dragons to be that space, because we want it to be fun. We want it to be strategic. We want it to be community focused. We want it to be in your head when you're not thinking about it. When you're not playing the game, my goal is for you to be thinking about, how do I get better at this game? Because once you have that internal monologue of like, how do I get better at this when I'm not doing it? That's when you know it's truly taking roots. And it's truly part of your daily habits, part of what you do. Like, all of that has informed what we're creating here, because we're creating something that's beyond just the here and now. We're going to be around for a very long time. So might as well get used to us, because we're going to be around.
Definitely. I love it. I love it. And there we go, people. We have Mr. Larry Hawkins here to talk more in depth about a Game of Dragons. Again, I'm Evantee, also Easy in the A-God Discord. And yeah, we are signing off. We hope you all look forward to the mint. We hope you all look forward to what's to come in the game. We have a lot to look forward to. So super excited. Let's get it.